it's Mrs. Thompson, not Trisco. I don't know how I screwed that up the last time. Okay, so the other day, last week or the week before last, when I came to observe your class, I believe it was this time second period, or it may have been the same one. No, it was ninth period. It was still the same classes. I saw the same students, pre-AP math. You guys were working on a review for, well, first they were working in groups again, and then you transitioned into a review for the district assessment. So, the upcoming district assessment. And that was the second one, yes?
Yes.
Wasn't that the second math district assessment? We've been star crazy around here. I'm sure you know that. So, I just have a few questions to ask you. Overall, how did you think that day went? I'm not sure if you can fully remember. It's been crazy. Okay. How do you think overall that day went? You know, it's the day before the assessment. You know they had a weekend break. What are your thoughts?
I think it went well. Putting them together with their partners helped because they got to talk through problems and try to remember things that they may have forgot, especially being a weekend, coming back from a weekend.
Right.
Yes.
I'm just looking at some of my notes. Some of the things that I did observe while they were working in groups, I thought was really, you know, nice student-to-student interaction. I even write their names. But one of the students said, he told one of his partners, you need to show your work. So, right, I actually heard a student say, hey, you know, they were working together, but he actually told his partner, hey, you know, we need to show our work. And I was like, So I could tell that that's something you have worked on with them. It's so important in math, I'm sure, for them to not only choose the correct answer on the Scantron, but to know how they arrived at that decision. So I will ask my questions that I wrote out. So what are some things you try to reinforce, knowing that this is a review, to get to the desired knowledge of the skills that they needed for this district assessment that was coming up?
Some of the things that we reviewed that day were the TEKs that they did poorly on the last district assessment.
Okay.
And the CBA that they did prior.
Oh, okay. And the previous CBA.
Yes.
Okay. So what was there a particular skill, like was it, I don't know all of them, but dividing fractions or
always dividing fractions.
I knew it. I struggle with that too. So dividing fractions is something that they had in that area.
So setting up equations.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Since this was a review, what did you do to make this day meaningful and different? And I already observed them working in partners, which is very interesting. What is something else that you found was a strength to make it different and not just like, oh, we're reviewing today over something we already know?
What I did was I had the students work together in partners first so that they can kind of talk it through. You know, talking is learning. So. And then afterwards, we kind of came back whole group, and I was able to answer any misconceptions that they still had or that they weren't able to remember or figure out with their partner.
And you find that way, having them talk it through first is more effective than you just beginning the lesson?
Definitely, because I can ensure that all the students are working on every problem. Because if it's just me talking to everybody, half of them might be dozed off. Even if they're looking at me, they might not really be listening to me, but that way they're forced to do every problem and talk it through. And the smaller the groups they're working in, the more I can ensure that each student is actually doing each problem.
I actually had one of the students explain the round robin to me. We haven't done that in the ELA, but we have our own ways of trying to ensure that other students. Can you talk a little bit about round robin?
Round robin is, I usually do about 6 problems on a paper. And what they'll do is nobody gets to do any on their own paper. And since they're doing the other students' paper, it kind of forces them to like, oh, I got to get this right. And so they really try their best. And I time them. So everybody, they pass their paper, in a pattern. And I'll put a timer on the board. So they'll have, depending on the type of questions, like 1 minute to answer the question. And it keeps them, round robins are so effective because they're doing somebody else's paper, so they want to get it right. And they're timed, so they're working the whole time. They're not wasting any time. And so, I give a round robin and boom, their heads are down and they're working at level. And then
so that is a great on-task activity that you feel really is effective with learning and retaining the skill and keeping them working. Okay. I noticed a few students were reluctant to participate even though this was a review. Why do you think they were? They already knew this information. What was up with that? We all have those.
Well, a lot of the district assessments were coming up, and as much as I try not to do a boring review, some of the students are reviewing in all of their classes. I know that they can get discouraged, and sometimes they just need extra encouragement to remember. Every day they're reviewing and they get tired of it, so they lose their motivation. They just need a little extra motivation and reminder of how important.
And all departments were reviewing. I do know that.
Yeah.
Okay, and what were your expectations or some of your expectations for other students when you were telling Sergio he couldn't answer any more questions? He loves to participate.
Yeah, Sergio, as much as I love to hear Sergio's answers, I also want to be able to hear other students participating. And if he can say the answer so fast, that's great, but then I don't know if the other students know it.
That's understandable. Okay. Okay, I noticed a few times you would mention the number of hands you would see when you asked a question. You posed a question. Try to write some of them down. What is the formula for the volume of a rectangular prism? And you would see, oh, only 2 hands, only 2 people know this answer. Why do you do that?
Well, I've noticed that when I say that, the students who aren't those 2 are like, well, I know it too, and it kind of makes them want to raise their hand when they're reluctant. And that day they were very reluctant to raise their hand.
A motivational strategy.
Yeah, it is, definitely. So.
Great.
Usually it works.
I think those are all of my questions. If I didn't write much down, I have it recorded, so that's great. And I will meet with you for I will meet with you for a post-conference meeting, but it will be just brief to discuss what we have gone over. No, I'll send you a memo. That's what I'll do. Okay. But thank you so much for your time and helping me do this. And I owe you big time. I owe you so much. Thank you.